Hi everyone, welcome to the E-Cell of IQS. Today we are in conversation with Mr. Varun Gupta, who is the partner at EY. And the aim of this podcast is to gain invaluable insights into the experience of Mr. Gupta's actuarial journey and understand how we can um, take inspiration from his journey and apply those into our actuarial journeys as well. So, hello, Mr. Gupta. Thank you so much for making time and being with us today.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you for the opportunity.
So I think we would like to begin from the very scratch. Can you tell us how you got into the actuarial journey and how it was at your time? Was there enough information about the career, or how did you manage?
Very, very interesting story. So, as a 90s kid, there were only two options in those days. One was either preparing for an IIT, which is engineering, or going for a doctor or an MBBS. So, I chose the former, went into an IIT, studied mechanical engineering. But the point is that in my final year, one of my friends, a very close friend, his elder brother, was working in a software company, and that software company was consulting for the upcoming insurance private sector.
Okay.
And that's when I got to know that this actuarial field is a very new field. It is 2002. Year is 2002. It's a very new field. And then I got excited knowing about that this is about number crunching, something which will suit uh, me, and my inner voice said that this might be the place to go. So there was nothing between mechanical engineering and this. It is just that IIT was more of what was being told, and this is something which I chose.
That's amazing to hear, sir. I think that in itself is quite inspirational that you wanted to, venture into something, but then you came across actuarial. And so how did you go about giving your exams at the time? Did you clear them from India board or the US or UK?
So the way it is, most of the exams I have cleared from both places, India and UK. There was some bit of exemptions available, so I did make a judicious use of those. But pretty much the end examinations, which are more theory based, I managed to clear it from both places, India and UK. In terms of the pattern of study, I don't recommend people choosing my pattern. And people who are engineers can tell you they are like they don't study throughout. I don't recommend it for anybody else. But engineers are like that. They will study at the very end, and then they will be awake the entire night and cracking those exams. So I don't really think that I'm an inspiration as far as cracking the exam side is concerned. Let me be honest.
That was a really nice take on the exam. And so, sir, since we've gone through your LinkedIn profile, and we were very surprised to see how you ventured into so many, different fields, and of course, your career spans across a lot of years. So, since you have held significant roles along various companies, how did each role shape your understanding of risk management?
See, at the very beginning, for me and for everybody else, I will say, try to hone your technical skills. And when you are trying to hone your technical skills, one advice I would have for people is be shameless. Because when you are working with people, with seniors, they won't have time for you. Now, don't expect them to be coming to you and explaining. You have to be shameless, persevere, keep on asking them questions, and get your technicals right. And when I say technicals right, you will need both depth and breadth. Try to make a good mix of both of them. So that's pretty much in the initial part of my role, which is corporate planning, which is experience investigations. So that was the part. The second phase, when you become senior or middle management, is more about learning communication. So because you get invited to meetings, not only you have to present, you have to also listen. So how to read the room, navigate a meeting becomes another trait which comes at the second level, which is the mid level. At senior levels, obviously, it's assumed that you know already the first two. But the third one is also about how do you ensure the core risk management role, which is governance. And when we talk about that, it is not always technicals. Technicals people know, but governance is how do you navigate difficult situations. There would always be pressures because see, this is the commercial world is a business of risk taking. That's how you make money as a commercial organization. So in that position, how do you manage risk becomes an important piece, and carefully choose your battles. Don't know the fracture points of an organization. Keep your focus there. Look at the big picture. Be solution oriented, because if you kind of in every small issue, if you try to raise matters, then people will think that you are somebody who stalls things or not open for discussion. So that is the trait which is required at the highest level, if you ask.
That's really well said. So thank you for, talking about being shameless and actually understanding. I feel like a lot of times what happens is we feel that someone is so senior to us in the specific field that so I'm currently interning at Marsh, and when I sometimes have to ask my seniors for some help with Excel, even I feel a little shy that I should have known this, I should have Googled this, something I should have done, but shouldn't have asked. But I feel like in some cases it's better to ask and make things easier so that even you can understand better for yourself how you should have done this particular thing, and it also enhances conversation with the other person that you're asking the question to.
And trust me, all supervisors, all seniors are also humans. They also want, if you are chasing them enough out of guilt, if they don't have time, out of guilt only they will start then giving you that time and making you learn. I think that's the journey which pretty much everybody goes. Trust me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this. Also, sir, so since you mentioned about risk, how do you think the nature of risk, be it in any lines of business, how do you think it has evolved over the years as to when you started working and now when you deal with risk in different aspects of life in general and in business? How do you think it has evolved?
So at a macro level, what's happening is, that the world is moving in a very different direction. So at a macro level, you have geopolitics playing out, you have inflation, macroeconomic risks, which is happening. And therefore, one has to live within those. Now, what do I mean by that? Equity markets can fall, go and up easily 10-20% easy. And public memory is short, but it has happened. Second, there are some geopolitical tensions going on, and therefore there is a theory about de-dollarization, US no longer being the biggest economy, or going to be in a decline phase. So all those phases are going to pan out at a macro level. But at a micro level, which is at the industry level also, see, when I started my career, the industry was just liberalized. So therefore, there was room to play. Now there are players who have been in the system for quite some time. They know the game, the risk-taking game. So they know that, and therefore things are becoming more and more competitive. Now, when things are more competitive, you know that there are not enough buffers. The initial style, earlier, remember the style was that you manage risk by having buffers in place. Now those buffers are disappearing because of commercial pressures, and that's how things are evolved. I'll take a very different example on this, Vidhi. When earlier forts were made, when kings used to make their forts, uh, there was not big engineering at that point of time. So how did you make sure that those forts are now surviving for 600 years, 1,000 years? How do you ensure that? So the only way, they used to make very thick walls. The walls were 4 bricks thick, but that was very expensive. That stood the test of time, but that was very expensive. You can't afford that today. So today you will need more techniques, tools, so that you can minimize the cost, but still make a long-term credible franchise which can stand the test of time. So I think that the macro and micro way the risk is changing.
Great, sir. Thank you for that answer as well. You really drawn a good comparison between the past, present, and the future as well. So, and sir, now since you mentioned finance also and equity markets, so if we are still in college, even though we are doing our internships, we still are very dependent on our parents for all of our needs, in fact. So what are the 3 tips of financial planning that you would give to us as college students, firstly, and then once we start our professional journey, how do you think we should manage our expenses and also save for the future?
See, the biggest thing one has to understand and which cannot be appreciated at your age but needs to be is the power of compounding. The power of compounding, trust me, it cannot be overstated. How much does it help? So, for example, people who come to their middle ages, if they have saved enough, they've invested well, then the prior period returns on the wealth they have actually exceeds the current income they are making. So that's like the power of compounding, and then it kind of exceeds. So therefore, start early, and because right now there are no big obligations with most of you guys, hoping. So therefore, take a bit of a risk. Risk reward equation does stand. So take a bit of a risk, invest in some equities, take the mutual fund or a SIP route. That's, I would say, that will give the compounding effect. In terms of insurance, term and health insurance as actuaries, personally also, I think that is something which should be taken. If you start early, there are 2 advantages. You lock into lower prices because age is the biggest factor. So young people get term insurance at lower rates. And second, fortunately, unfortunately, when you reach if you delay it and if you reach the middle ages, what's going to happen is that you might develop some kind of a condition. It could be a mild condition, but that may just make finding the right insurance at the right price difficult. And last but not the least, health insurance. A lot of people, I'm sure your parents, if they're working, they would have a health cover from their corporate. But it's important to get an individual health cover because there is a continuity of cover, which is important. So, in that order, save, invest in equities, buy a term insurance, health insurance, and obviously make something. Right now, you guys are young, but create an emergency fund also, which you think would be there for a rainy day while you kind of enjoy the compounding in equities.
Wow. So thank you for shedding light on the power of compounding. We've heard as actuarial students when we do the finance papers, like CM1, CM2, those papers. We've heard a lot about compounding, and we often, because I feel like it's also the age where people say that you should enjoy your life. So we kind of neglect the fact that it is important to start early. And even about health insurance, life insurance, as you said, at a later stage there is a lot of loading that gets applied to our lives in general, because as we know that the mortality of everyone increases with age. So definitely we'll end up paying a lot more than um required for us for those products in life
And,
insurance or health insurance.
and I would just want to add there, Vidhi, what's happening is inflation around us, especially post COVID, is actually quite high. And what we see as a headline inflation, the numbers which we hear in the government publications, is not a number which is applicable to us. Our number is very different. In fact, it's higher because, see, you guys would want to enjoy life also. So if you want to go for a holiday, look at the prices of airfare, look at the prices of hotels. So those kind of luxury items are now becoming in our society are also becoming necessities. So in some ways, we are westernizing quite fast,
True.
and therefore our level of inflation is quite high. And to cope with that, you will need to start investing so that you can
True.
reap.
Sorry, so for that.
No problem.
So, now coming to actuarial, where do you see the future of the actuarial profession, and how can the next generation of actuaries prepare for it?
See, right now there is a lot of tailwind in the sector. So I see lots and lots of demand for actuaries. Now it is primarily being fueled. One is by the global reporting standard, which is IFRS. World has adopted it, but they are still kind of coming to terms with it. India has not adopted it, so therefore a lot of work going on in that area. Second tailwind is coming from risk-based capital. Again, India is following the world market on that one. And then, a lot of global capability centers have come in India. So a lot of capabilities are being sourced from India now. So there is a huge tailwind, I will say, for actuaries, which is coming through. But that's something where you can ride on. But the future is looking very different. The future means that actuaries and data analytics will start to compete with each other. Because if you think about it, at a very basic level in non-life insurance, data analytics and actuaries in a way are competing skill set. In life insurance, asset liability management, persistency analysis is competing with actuary. So the future will mean that have business decisions, have a commercial acumen, but riding on technology. We cannot be archaic in the use of technology. A lot of actuaries, and this is by the way my favorite interview question, that how adept you are at software skills and acquiring new skills there. Because people do have Excel skills, but now Python, R, AI, that's how the world is going. And nobody can say that they know it. The question is, do you have the right attitude to learn? So that's the point.
Thank you. So I was, we also had a question about technology, and I think just a follow-up question. When you are at EY, how do you see that? How do you see EY adapting to technology? In what projects or day-to-day use? What kind of use do you make of technology every day?
See, so today in delivering our projects, again the same simile I will draw. There are current projects which are going on. In the current projects, the basic use of technology is how to massage data very, very effectively and get it to a point where we can deliver to the clients. Now, clients can give data in various formats. So you need to make sense of it very quickly, use the tools, the query tools, and get it to the right point. But that's today. As I said, the future will look very different. In future, AI is going to come in a big way. So that we have started to work on a project. It's very early days, where, for example, and UI is a pioneer in that. We have done this in banking already. So, for example, banking regulations are very complex. So we have created an AI tool in which the compliance heads, operation functions, or the CEOs can put in their queries that can I create this product or what will happen if I do this. The AI tool will give all the answers.
Wow. Okay.
And trust me, the regulations are very, very complex in banking. Now we would want to do that in insurance also. So that's one of the projects. But there are many such use cases.
Wow, so this is very interesting to hear that, I think it makes everyone's job effectively easier because it's just not to see all the regulations, not all the compliances, but to just to get an idea of what we would have to comply as a company. If you're thinking of launching a product, what are some of the most important points that we will have to understand, as compliance? Because I feel like so just today in the morning, in my first lecture itself, we were learning about professional ethics, and we spoke. And the miss, she was speaking about how compliance directly impacts the finances of a company. She said that if you comply very regularly and correctly to the compliances that have been listed out for your company, then you will be able to avoid a lot of financial costs that are involved in um, legalities. You have to hire a lawyer, and because it's a company, the penalties are very high. So if you comply correctly, then you can do away with all those costs.
So it's not only costs, Vidhi. Cost obviously is one direct benefit, but the indirect benefit is so huge. Even in, let's say, the equity markets, the listed firms, they have a section or a criteria called governance, the quality of governance in a company. The better the governance is, markets will value them quite highly. I don't want to name the companies, that would not be right on my part, but it's for all to see. Now, the way this works is, see, and what is ethics? Ethics and compliance is one thing is to do things correctly, but it's also to be perceived to be correct. So I'll take an example. One thing is that, let's say if I'm contracting with somebody, I should not be taking favors. Now that is obviously the right thing to do.
Yes.
But let's say if one of your relatives is one of the vendors in a company, and you want to take services from them, and you are not even involved, but you are a decision maker, one of the decision makers on a committee or whatever. Yeah. Now what should one do? You are not taking any favors personally. There is the vendor is the best vendor, by the way, for that service for the company. It will be good for the company. Now how do you go about in such situations? Here, uh, the perceived to be correct is as important.
Right.
So there are options available. Either you can put it to a committee, or you can recuse yourself from that committee, already knowing that there could be a conflict of interest. So that interplay, and the situations are so complex and so different. It just comes from a compass, from a moral compass which you have, which I will encourage all the actuaries to develop to be a good professional.
Wow. So can you tell us more about the moral compass? I'm already excited to know a little more about it. Is it about the
See,
ethics that we should have as professionals?
the moral compass works in different ways. As I said, that each situation is very different. And each individuals, trust me, now with 20 years of experience, I have worked with different individuals, and there are gray zones all the time. There are most of the times there is no right or no wrong. But how do you react in such situations? How do you make sure the end objective is clear? Which, let's say in this example, could be a firm, as I told you, taking services, but doing the right thing for the company, but also making sure that you are personally not conflicted. So, and right now you are young college going students, but this thing happens all the time in a corporate environment, and one has to be very, very careful and watchful. When I said moral compass, what I meant was that once you realize what is right or what is wrong or what could be perceived to be wrong, once you realize that, then perhaps you don't even need to refer any documents that which is ethical, moral. You don't need to even read, although I do encourage people to read. But once you get that moral compass right, you already know in some ways what's written is actually a part of what that only. The professional conduct standards, which actuaries have, your companies which you will
Code
work
of conduct.
for or already working for would have a code of conduct. So it just documents some of those things. But trust me, they don't document. They can't document everything.
Right.
The situations are so unique.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for shedding light on that as well. And now, so coming back to actuarial sector, is there something that you had in mind growing up that you wanted to pursue as a child, or maybe even after your 10th and 12th? And then how did you transition into actuarial science, and how did you decide that, okay, this is the career that I want to go ahead with? And what are some of the challenges that you faced while clearing your exams? Which was your toughest exam to clear?
So as I said, as a 90s kid, IITs was the only option. So I was studying through a coaching institute for getting into an IIT. I didn't get into the top of the IITs, but I went to IIT Varanasi, and from there I got to know about this profession through a connect. But still, I had my doubts. I'll be honest, because sometimes it's easy to go with the flow, and actuaries was not in vogue at that point of time. So from IIT, I straight away went to IIM Calcutta, and did my MBA there, because again that was something which everybody was doing. Uh, but somewhere down the line, during my IIM days, I realized, and this Vidhi, truly, I say this, that each person is different. There are people who can work with people. There are people who can work with numbers. There are people who can do both. One has to just keep on realizing what you are good at. So at that point, I realized that a general management role may not suit me as much. I wanted to start my career knowing the technicals right, and therefore more mathematical things right, and then grow from there. And that's pretty much how it happened. But coming back to my exam story, because since you asked, so while coming out of an IIM, I did have an advantage in some of the papers. So economics, then there was an accounting paper. I don't know what the code is nowadays for that accounting paper. There was an accounting paper. So I had an advantage on some of those. But the biggest thing is the toughest paper, or the paper where I failed twice, was that accounting paper, although I had done it in an IM.
Okay.
Because sometimes you need a lot of perseverance in examinations. You need to submit yourself to the course. Because that time I thought I can take a lot of papers together. This subject I already know. So there was a bit of an arrogance which does come into your head. And that's what happened to me, at least for that exam. And I failed that exam twice. That pretty much was my worst. Others I could either clear in one session or max 2. But that took me 3.
Oh.
Accounting.
I think you are talking about CB2. Right now it is mapped to CB2. In your time, I'm not sure what it was. It is related to business finance. So,
So
ratio analysis.
balance sheet,
Balance sheet. Yes, yes.
ratio analysis.
Yes, sir.
So because now I'm so old that time it was not even CT series. That time it was when I started.
Yeah.
So it was 108. It's called, there was 100 series paper, 200 series. It was called 108. After that, so as a student, I was at the cusp of 100, 200 series pattern and the CT series pattern.
Okay.
So my initial exams was from that pattern, and then most of my exams were in CT series pattern.
Okay, okay. Yes, so now it is according to IFOA curriculum, the accounting paper that you mentioned, it is called CB2.
CB2.
CB2. CB1, sorry, CB.
Okay.
Yeah. So, coming now to your role as as a partner at EY, can you describe what a day in your life looks like?
Very different compared to when you are working in a direct insurance firm. So pretty much in a day you have to do 4 or 5 things. I'm just bucketing them, and within that, then there are obviously variations, and each day can be very different. So one meeting pretty much is a sales meeting in some ways, the pipeline meeting, that how many projects are under discussion, and what is the documentation required, what are the decision makings, both cost decisions as well as scope discussions to close those projects, to be able to win them. Because as a partner, you need to bring in business also. So that is one part of the story. Let's call them the sales side of things or pipeline side of things. Second is the delivery, because clients are demanding. So you need to give them quality of work so that there is a brand for the firm which stays. So that quality of delivery is what we ensure, and therefore regular reviews across teams and multiple projects are going on at different points of time. So that's the second piece. Third aspect is also practice management.
Okay.
Now, sales and delivery is directly related to projects. But what about practice management? When I say practice management, how many, let's say, articles we are writing in terms of thought leadership? Then there is some boring stuff, but an important stuff, that the charging which we need to do to the client, they have to be booked in the systems.
Okay.
Then there is a leg called recruitment, because we are by far the largest practice in India, the actual practice. Wow. So there's a recruitment which keeps on going on. So in terms of people, who is coming in, what is the interview process, what are the offers which are going, and therefore also one aspect which is people governance. How are we giving people feedback? What is the review process which we have with people? Because ultimately strength of an actual practice is its people. Right. So recruitment means what kind of people are getting in. Feedback means how are we doing regular governance of those, and third obviously is knowledge imparting. So while on the project they will get knowledge for that particular project only, but we have this continuous training sessions which keep on going on, so that we are very clear that what are the skills, and for that you need to have a bit of a foresight that what's going to happen in future, and therefore how are our people trained on that. So that's how the day typically. So sales, delivery, practice management, and then people side of it.
Yes.
So
Then how
pretty
would
much the day starts.
yeah.
Sorry, the pretty much the day starts at around 9 a.m. or so, and then it will go up to on an okay day might go up to 8, but the days can be long also sometimes.
Yeah. And so how would you um you know understand your transition? That first, did you start as like an intern, and now you are at such a senior post? So how do you feel, after in terms of job satisfaction as well, that every day you want to wake up and you want to do this? So how important do you think passion is, in an actuarial career? Because the exams are definitely not so easy for anyone to clear. But I feel like if you have the passion, then maybe you can do it. So what is your take on that?
So passion, Vidhi, is true for every profession. First of all, it's not only actuarial. I think if you don't have passion for a thing, then after a while you might start find it boring. You might not find it interesting. So you're right. I started as an intern, and by the way, even after an IIM, I started as an intern. The reason being, and those times, people from IIM didn't want to get into the profession, so you had to connect with people. I was fortunate to get connected to a large insurance company, but they said that we don't have a program for IIM people. So if you want to come in, and I took a pay cut. They said that if you want to come in, I had a job from IIM, so they said we can't pay you that much. For us, you are like any other intern. So you join us. So that's when I started off. In the initial period, the passion will come from two areas, as I said. One is technical learning, and second is exam passing. The big shift happens, and I'm just now recalling the days, once you pass all the exams. So there is an initial euphoria because that was the goal you always had. And then suddenly what starts to happen, one fine day you pass the exams, you do a party and everything, and then you realize, okay, what's my next goal? What will drive me? What is my passion? Now that passion, within everybody finds in their own. Some people think finding passion is technical learning on the job, obviously. Some people find my passion is problem solving. So every day you will be thrown business problems. For some people, the passion could be learning a new software itself, because that's how you keep your eyes and ears open and try to explore different areas. So, for example, from actuarial, I did transition to a strategy role. I did transition to a products role, and a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my seniors have done similar things. So that passion is always a discovery process, uh, and that's the fuel which keeps the fire burning. Otherwise, uh, it kind of becomes difficult. So every day going out, so passion is important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And I also want to know that beyond technical knowledge and exam, what other skills, like soft skills, that are required, not just for clearing actuarial papers, but also in a job environment. Like you said, EY is the largest, practice firm in India for the actuarial services. So, what are some things? I'm sure you might have taken a lot of interviews as well while recruiting people from the actuarial background. What is the one, or what are the few skill sets that you think should be there in a candidate?
You're almost asking me to leak the paper, because in a way you're asking me that what are the questions I do ask in an interview. But I'll be happy. I'll be happy to suggest, because that's what I'm really looking for. See, you are looking from a candidate the right aptitude and the right attitude. Now, aptitude portion, generally sometimes you do a written examination or the past performance you can figure out. And now for the attitude, there are several aspects which open up. One of, and we have talked about those, but I will just summarize them. One of them is, what about the software skills? The attitude to learn new coding languages. And therefore your dispensation in terms of ability to learn, because this area will keep on evolving. So that's one thing which I ask. Second thing which I always ask is that how are your people skills? Now, when I'm interviewing at a very young level, you won't have a team to manage, right? So the question would be that how do your friends look at you? How would your family look at you? Do they look up to you as a leader? Do they look up to you as a friend, as a calm character? So that's the people side of things. Third, communication. And communication, why it becomes very important that you have to manage clients also. Not at the very beginning stage, perhaps when you're at the middle level, but communication with clients, communicating your point becomes important. Last but not the least, not at the interview stage, but if you ask me, the skill called project management. At all points of time, we are delivering complex projects. And project management is as important as technical, because project management in a larger project, in the longer engagement, means that you are holding people together, you are holding people accountable, you are managing timelines. So that becomes a very, very critical skill.
Okay.
So those four.
Yes. Sir, so I think we've covered most of the questions, and now we are coming to the end of it. I think now I would want to actually ask you: are there any internship opportunities that EY is coming up with? Because here at IQS we have and a graduate trainee kind of a program. When after the fourth semester, we start interning at companies, and then depending on their experience and the work culture and everything, if we get a PPO, then we stay with the company or we find something else. So is EY also coming up with something like that?
So there are discussions going on with the right now internally. We have not done it as part of an established program till now, but there have been phases in which we have taken this route. But I am thinking and discussing something on these lines, and let me discuss with my fellow colleagues at EY, and I'll surely be back, perhaps at your college soon enough.
Yes, so that will be nice because we've heard a lot about EY, and a lot of our seniors have also been placed after their graduation. They've been placed at EY in the actuarial practices itself. And we've heard a lot of good things about the company. So we'd really be interested in knowing if there are internship opportunities also at EY. And
Sure, sure. So I'll
um,
get back soon. Yeah.
And so this is a little bit of a personal question, but I would really like to know what kind of hobbies did you have growing up as a child, and did any of those play a role in your actuarial journey?
Actually, only one. I was very fond of reading newspapers.
Oh, okay.
So, and that included reading business newspapers. So that is something which really helped me to broaden my thinking.
Hmm.
And the newspaper reading habit didn't come out of any compulsion. It was purely an hobby. That's something which I really enjoyed. So linking a micro problem to the macro issue is something which I gained from that.
Hmm.
So that helped me a lot in terms of looking at the larger picture, solving problems for my company or for my clients. I think that is something which stood out for me. But yes, nowadays I've started to play tennis, and I think when you say hobbies, it's important to stay fit. It was again not very popular in the 80s and 90s, but it's very important to stay fit because physical fitness also brings mental agility. And and I can again tell people of your age that things will keep on becoming more and more tough. Things don't get easy, right? The problems which get thrown at you will keep on getting increasingly complex. Nobody will come and tell you today, sir, today this thing went very well. They will always come to you with problems, right? So you need to absorb those problems, find solutions, and therefore the physical fitness will also bring in that mental agility. So I think that is something which, and by the way, playing some form of sport also helps to create those chemical reactions in your body so that you can kind of feel good about it.
Yes.
So that is something which I will recommend. I did not do it too much because we were too much into studies those days, but I can tell you nowadays I do play tennis.
Yes, and sir, last but not the least, what is the one piece of advice that you would like to give all the actuarial aspirants?
So I would not give one piece, maybe three or four pieces, but I will be sharp and brief. In the beginning, be and actually always be a self-starter. Not every time somebody will come and check on your work. So be a self-starter. Keep looking at the big picture. Stay at the crease. A lot of us are cricket fans. Stay at the crease. Not every time the going would be easy. You won't get the most glamorous projects all the time. Even if you're getting something glamorous, so-called glamorous, you will also get the tough parts with it. To be stay at the pitch. It's important. And fourth, invest, save early.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us. And we really hope to see you very soon in person.
Sure, sure. All right. Same here.
Thank, thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Bye.
Bye.